Hi, I'm Bob Roth, Managing Partner and Co-founder of Cypress Home Care Solutions. Since 1994, we've been helping older adults in the Phoenix community age gracefully and safely in the place they call home. Since 2014, I've been bringing you Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, a show dedicated to helping you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Health Futures, and thank you for allowing us to take this pause that we have. I had a healthcare challenge, but I've overcome that, and I'm in a better place today than I was yesterday. So I'm really excited about having this guest back into the studio with me. It's been since May 9th, 2025, so it's just a little bit more than a year. But she's been on the show 5 times. This will be number 5.
Wow.
And she's somebody that not only is my friend, but a great advocate and no better person to know in the aging service world. So without further ado, Jaime Roberts, welcome back to Health Futures.
Well, thanks, Bob. And I'm really glad that you are feeling better. When you were under the weather, everyone know. I mean, it's not good for anyone. So I'm glad you're back to good health.
Well, thank you. And, just sharing with the audience, I had a herniated disc. And you know what? I'm so happy to be living in 2026 where you can have what is called a microdiscectomy. And they were able to they took about 2.5 inches of my disc out.
Gosh. Yeah. Back problems are the worst.
I got to tell you, I mean, the pain instantly gone.
Yeah. Well,
big props to my surgeon, Dr. Luis Toomey Allen. He did a great job. But Jaime, this show is about you. And I want to talk about you because you're somebody I've known for the better part of probably 20 years now. And I first met you when you were in the aging service world. You were the executive director for the La Loma campus of Sun Health. I think you opened it, if I remember correctly. And you had this storied history, if you would, career in aging services. And then you took a little detour. And I kept saying to you got to get back here. We need you in aging services. We really do. We need you in aging services. And you did a stint over one of the great communities here in town, the Terraces. And I think you were there, 6, 7 years as the executive director and made it through COVID.
Yeah.
And that, if there's anything that can challenge any executive director for a community the size of the Terraces, was that. But for the last couple of years, it's probably 3, 4 now?
3 years.
3 years. You have been the CEO of Arizona LeadingAge.
Yes.
And Arizona LeadingAge, if you would indulge our listeners a little bit about Arizona LeadingAge.
Sure.
What is this trade association? What is it made up of? I just know that you are on the forefront of aging services. And the people down at the Capitol, the legislature, they all know you because you're advocating for some of the most vulnerable people in our community.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. So Arizona LeadingAge is an association primarily of nonprofit or mission-based senior living providers. So people on the entire continuum, affordable housing, independent living, skilled nursing, memory care, assisted living, behavioral health, adult day, hospice, home health, home care, at any part of the continuum that touches an older adult. Those are the folks that we represent down at the Capitol. We offer a couple of, our primary goal is advocacy. We obviously really believe in the work that our members do, and so we want to support them through advocacy efforts. But our members also really need each other. So networking is incredibly important to connect with like-minded individuals, and education. They really want best practice. They want innovation. They want to be with like-minded people. They want to learn how do I do this better?
Right.
And if I have a story to share to help another community, let me do that too. And so those are really the 3 buckets that Arizona LeadingAge focuses on: advocacy, networking, and education.
Well, before we dive into the Help Project, I do have some questions.
Sure.
So I wanted to be prepared here today and just ask you a couple. So what's keeping aging service providers today awake at night?
I mean, how long do we have? But I mean, there are a lot of things. You have workforce shortages, which are really real. You have funding issues that are also very, very real and have been upon us for a very long time, and there's been no solution. And then you on top of that, you layer on very complicated, poorly created policy that has really impacted the way providers can do business. And those are primarily around funding models and how services are provided, and then the regulations that are attached to it, right? So all of those things are kind of a perfect storm for folks in terms of what they're worried about at any given time. I don't think there is a CEO today that isn't worried about workforce. We have we have less people entering into the workforce. We have a lot more people entering into retirement, and a lot more people entering into the services that our members provide, with a lot less folks interested in wanting to serve them. That is not a great situation. So I think workforce is something that every CEO thinks
It's like
about.
the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, Jamie, I mean, I want our audience to really understand this in perspective, because we have workforce challenges in home care.
Yes.
And, we're just, and I don't mean to say just, but we're employing caregivers, and that is truly our only asset. But I look at the communities that make up LeadingAge, the members that you have. They have food service, they have housekeeping, they have engineers, they have administrative people, they have someone working in the front desk. It is so much more complex from a staffing standpoint
it
to be
is.
able to. And you have residents. How many residents were in the terrace system?
Yeah, I mean, there were over 320 folks.
And when one person doesn't show up, it throws off.
Yeah.
It's like if someone weren't to show up for a baseball team, right?
Right.
You have 9 players out on the field. If you have one less player, you're at a distinct disadvantage.
Absolutely. But I will say one of the things with that, with the things that keep them up at night, I think the other side of the coin, which I think a lot of our leaders are kind of picking up on to the positive, is we hear all this other talk about AI and robots taking jobs and all of those things. One of the things that our industry has to offer that will never go away is the human touch. And that what we do really requires human beings. Now, there are absolutely incredible technologies that are going to help with workflows and systems that are set up for billing and staffing and all of the laundry list of things that you have to get done. But if you love people and you want to be around people, this industry is actually going to solve that fear, I think, for people who think AI is going to replace them. AI could never do the human piece of the work that happens in our communities and beyond. So that piece of it, I think, is a positive shift. And if people could take one thing away, I think there are jobs that might not stick around. But I think the jobs that will never go away are the ones that require empathy, connection, and a human being to be in the room and hold somebody's hand when they were just given a bad diagnosis, or when they need to learn how to walk again from a surgery, or have somebody help them brush their teeth. Those sorts of things are never going to go away, and you're going to need humans to do that. So, I would say to anyone in terms of workforce, that's an opportunity that I think we need to capitalize on instead of keeping ourselves up at night for.
Now I know why I like you so much, because I talk about this all the time, Jamie. You know, what we do and the work we do is so relational. It's
Yep.
so human, and we need that.
Yeah.
And the fear that all of us have is AI taking over the world, right?
Yeah.
And replacing jobs. I
Right.
mean, we're right now in the month of June. We just came off of May, where a lot of the college kids graduated, and some of them have degrees that aren't going to be able to give them what they were expecting.
Yeah.
Because so much has changed in 4
So
years.
much has changed. Yeah.
But at the same time, aging services, whether you're doing home care, whether you're working in a community, whether you're doing advocacy work,
Right.
whether you're working as a care partner or caregiver, it's an incredibly rewarding process and such a rewarding experience.
Yeah, and there'll never be a universe that's not going to have human beings involved.
100%.
So I think I do get it, and I do understand. I mean, there are other industries that's probably a very real concern, but I do think that is it's the silver lining to what we're experiencing. So right now we have a workforce shortage. True, we have less people wanting to work than the needs that are necessary for our healthcare environment or the services that are in aging services. Now, the skill set that's required for that, it isn't maybe what they went to school for, but there are gonna be jobs, and they are gonna be important jobs,
100%.
and if we can retrain ourselves to think a little bit less about the screen that I wanna be fixated to and more about the eye contact I wanna make with the person I'm caring for, if we can just do those shifts in
Hmm.
some of our education and our learning and emphasis about what's important in our society, I think there's gonna be there because there are going to be plenty of people who need care and services, and, that job is going to be available for the person who wants it.
As Tammy Bohannon and I always say, do the math.
Yeah.
The 65-year-old population is doubling in 2 decades.
Yep.
85-year-old population is going to nearly quadruple. The demands on our society are going to be very high, and they're going to require people for
Yeah.
relationships. You know, I see in my space in home care, and you may see it also in the community living space, where there's so many people, and I don't mean to be fixated talking about AI, but I want to talk about this one important thing. There's so many people that want to try to solve problems using AI agents. And I'm going to tell you that home care, aging service care, community living care is so relational. It's not transactional. And when we make those experiences transactional, it loses its luster, it loses its effect. We need to be in communication with people, and it's amazing how many people are trying to disrupt right now, saying, "You know what? I can create an agent that can call that client, or I can create an agent that can call that caregiver." It's not the same as the relationship that can be fostered by having a human, like a scheduler that works in home care, build that rapport and relationship with that caregiver. We don't treat our clients as shifts. And I really take great offense when people say, "Well, I got a shift for you."
Mm.
No, I have a great client for you.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why Betty is going to be a great client for you. She checks all the boxes of the things you're looking for as a caregiver.
Yeah.
That cannot be replaced by AI. And I think too many people are trying real quickly to use AI agents in a care industry, in a care continuum, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the market's gonna decide and they will reject it. I mean, I think you're seeing that. I mean, I think a lot of this hype, people are trying to jump in and try to figure out a way to be more efficient and solve some of their painful problems, which often come back to workforce, right? And so they're like, if I can have a bot or an agent or whatever you wanna name your AI thing, um, go ahead and try it, but I think what you're going to find is that the folks that still recognize that the human connection is what is actually going to increase satisfaction, it's going to increase outcomes. I mean, the benefit of having that human there, the market will decide. You will see it from that. People will start rejecting that as a solution. So I think yes, AI is there, and I think there's tremendous opportunities for our organizations to utilize AI in better ways
Hmm.
that can look, I think there's tremendous solutions around the sales and marketing space right now.
100%.
I mean, being able to laser in on your ICP on how to market directly to that person. But once you get that person, it is a human who has to connect with them to get them to want to move in or use your services or connect. So, I mean, yes, I think it's an accelerator. I think AI is an accelerator to better outcomes for those who recognize that the actual cherry on top, the driver is the human empathy piece.
We're in 100% alignment.
Mhm.
I agree. So we're just coming off just last week of a conference that you just had.
Yeah.
It's your annual dealio, and just so people understand, conferences don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of work, and you had a lot of help in pulling this together. And I want to give you kudos because I go to a lot of these conferences when they have awards, and they try to put the awards in during lunch, or they try to do them at the end. And during lunch, they're so disruptive because people are talking at the table, and at the end, half the people have left, so it's kinda lost its luster. I love how you brought that front and center right at the beginning. you gave away some really meaningful awards to individuals and organizations that have gone above and beyond. And what I loved most about it was choreographed. It was very succinct. It was one after another. You showed a professional video. You had someone do the introduction. You had two people that spoke. It wasn't everybody. And I would imagine you would have had probably another hour on that if you had everyone speak, and you probably would have lost the audience.
Mhm.
But you didn't. The other part I loved about you is you were the MC. And not only were you the MC, but you are so authentic and so real and so self-deprecating. You really are. I mean, it's just so fun to see Jamie Roberts in action. And
Aw.
and you know what? It's hard to keep a room of 300 people that were there, 400 people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people to keep them all engaged. Nobody was having conversations. All eyes were on the stage. And for me, to see somebody be able to do that in 3 years,
Yeah.
I mean, it says a lot about you and the organization and the team that you've really
Oh,
assembled.
thank you. No, it was they hadn't had their coffee yet, but no, it was no,
See,
it
self-deprecating.
was a great group, and it is the best part of what we do. So thank you. We had 475 people this year at our annual conference,
Wow.
which was really great. And particularly when you're seeing, I think, conference attendance going down a bit. There's a
Mhm.
conference every week, and you're on the circuit. You go to so many
I
conferences.
don't go to them all, but
Yeah,
I pick and choose, and
yeah.
yours one of them that I choose.
But thank you. And they are yeah, there's a lot that happens, and so but the most important piece of what we do are the people, and the organizations that we help and the what and who they serve, and so being able to highlight them and show the work that's being done in a meaningful way is really important, and we also invite our elected officials, and they come to our events, which is really important for them because they're at the legislator, and they're making decisions oftentimes based off of maybe one advocacy group saying that they wanted a particular bill, or even maybe it was just a constituent in their community or in their district that said, I like do this one thing for me. And so they run these bills without having context to the business and what reality is. And so
And what maybe the unintended
and
consequences could be?
1,000% of the
Yes.
unintended consequences. And so having them in the room for that particular piece and seeing the work that goes into this the innovation, the creativity, the care, the compassion, the empathy, that that is something that is, really priceless. I mean, that it
Mhm.
brings people to the moment of, "Wow, I didn't even think about that one thing because this isn't the world I live in," right? And so, I am trying to address a singular problem, and legislators love to address the one problem so they can say, "Look, I solved this big problem, reelect me." That's the whole thing. But if they can't understand like, if that one problem creates 10 new ones, that's also not great, and so having legislators in the room there to see that work and really understand it at a level, that isn't about who isn't doing a good job really is, powerful.
Well, I can tell you, I know some of the legislators that were there. They are incredible humans. I mean, they understand not only aging services, but they understand the reason for advocacy and the work that the Arizona Leading Age does.
Yeah,
But I will tell you, I was fascinated just with the sheer number, and that speaks volumes.
yeah,
And the work that Arizona Leading Age does is not only the work to really help with innovation and advancement and what's the latest and greatest, but it's the work that you do down at the Capitol and advocating for some of our most vulnerable in our population and really helping them understand what it means to run a community because as we shared, that idea may be great, but there's 8 other things that are gonna fall apart as a result of it.
yeah, yeah. It's important. It's an important piece of the puzzle. There in a lot of our properties or communities, there's funded braided funding models. There's, different agencies and organizations that are involved. It is as complicated as a Tetris game sometimes trying to figure out where, if you do this, you're gonna have this.
Right.
And so there oftentimes what seems like an easy solution and sounds great, it has it has a lot of other unintended consequences
100%.
because if you can't see the whole picture, it unravels a lot of the other framework underneath it. So it's really important to have somebody at the table that can understand why if you do A, B, C, and D are going to also need adjustments too.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into the help project,
Okay.
is Arizona prepared for the aging population that is coming?
Well, the aging population is here. It's not coming. It's here. Today is our best day. Every day after this, we're going to have more and more. So,
So true.
so I don't know. Well, I do know there isn't a state that actually has solved this and actively worked with it. We haven't at a federal level. We certainly haven't done it at state level. Some states have tried, I think, to say that they're doing things, but the issue is one that we have kicked the can down the road so far, and I mean, politically speaking, look, there's policy and then there's politics. There's a difference.
100%.
And so you could have policy that sounds great, but the politics behind that can make it messy or not so great. So I'm holding space for both of those conversations because they're different. But when we look at the policy that's being created, it's generally very much about this person or this company or this industry was bad. And so this policy that I'm running fixes the bad thing. The problem with that whole mindset, I think, when we're running policy is that when you start doing that, you're looking for somebody to blame for all of the problems. Aging services, it's a systems problem. It's ingrained into every aspect of our lives. And so you can't point to one thing and say this is the problem. It is a systems problem. And frankly, we've never created a system. We haven't at a federal level, we haven't at a state level. We have a bunch of different policies that have been created that we're trying to weave together to make it make sense. And oftentimes what you find is that it doesn't. And so, because everyone's coming from a different angle and nobody really has a 30,000-foot view of how this is going to be implemented. And then you have different advocates, which are important from different walks of life, and they have different viewpoints. All of those things matter too. And so, but if you only are listening to one or two of those viewpoints, you're not getting the collective stakeholder input. You end up with bad policy, which ultimately then becomes a political conversation that you have to have, which, by the way, for aging services, we believe it's a nonpartisan issue. This shouldn't be a Republican or Democratic issue.
100%.
It should just be the thing that we do because we believe in taking care of older adults, and not just by saying that, of course I want to go after the bad actors or make sure vulnerable adults are well taken care of. That's fine. But we don't fund it. We don't educate people about it. Do you know that not one medical school there is not a standard geriatric training program for any specialty? Some have geriatric training, but like your cardiologist, your oncologist, your urologist, any specialist that you have, the majority of their patient population are going to be older adults, and none of them have geriatric training. So here's the thing. If we are focused on wanting to create an environment that we say we really care about our older adults, we need to make sure that our institutions are actually talking about it in a meaningful way. We need to make sure that our kids in middle school and high school and elementary school understand what it means to, what understands aging from that perspective. There isn't a kindergartner today that will not work in some industry when they graduate high school that will require them to have some knowledge of aging. Not one.
100%.
Not one.
Yeah.
So it's a skill set that we don't teach and we don't talk about but what we do talk about and what we're happy to spend money on, and this is sometimes an unpopular conversation, but people like to talk about longevity and wellness, and they send all these very pretty words around about like anti-aging, and people will spend billions. I mean, we spend billions on an anti-aging wellness longevity platform. We do not spend anywhere close to that on actually what happens when you age. And so if we are not going to be teaching people how to care for somebody living with dementia at every stage, we're not teaching even our male person. What they could be trained on what a house might look like for an older adult and signs of maybe we should call somebody, maybe right there. There are 1,000 little things that we could be doing to bring aging into a conversation, and we don't. So we say it. We have people who say we need this policy because, this one thing happened, therefore we need better policy. But if you really wanted to solve the policy issues around this, you'd be looking at it as a systems issue, and you would also very quickly realize that we don't have a system.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack here. No, seriously. I will tell you, I 100% agree with you. And the one piece that I know you and I are in alignment with that I want to add to it is to the American people, there's not a safety net out there. Medicare does not pay for senior housing, nor does it pay for in-home supportive care. Americans are not prepared for aging.
Mm-mm.
We're not. And you're talking about the system. You're talking about the doctors. I mean, look, I love Atul Gawande's book, Being Mortal.
Mm-hmm.
That was an eye-opener. That was about 15 years
right,
ago.
And that should be required reading.
Right, for every doctor.
And for every student.
Every human,
For
too.
every human, it should be required reading.
Really
yes.
needs to understand
But we're all
that.
going to be caregivers.
Of course we are.
At some point, right?
Of course we are. But I will tell you, and unpacking some of the other things that you talked about the kids. I mean, when I was a kid, we took homemaking services and we took woodshop. We should be running a direct care CNA type program for every kid that goes through high school, because they are skills that they are going to use, whether it's soft skills or professional skills. We hope that we could introduce healthcare to them, because healthcare represents about a third of the GDP, and it's only going to grow.
Right.
I mean, that's where we need to really put a lot of time and effort
Absolutely.
into.
When I have 2 daughters. My youngest daughter, who's very much her whole goal is to be famous and make a lot of money. But when she came home one day and said that what she wanted to be when she grew up was an influencer, I almost had a heart attack. This was not a, and I don't even let my kids have social media. So I don't understand where she even understood what that was. But that's a problem. We aren't in, there is a lack of passion for giving our kids the skills and the the vision of what they should look at for their future. The fact that an influencer is the one career that is going to make them millions of dollars, and that's the sexy career, versus the career that actually is going to keep people comfortable, safe, and in their home, doesn't even get talked about. And I would just say that to anyone who says they care about older adults. Where else are you talking about it then in your life? Or is it, and I think that's where we really think about the system breaking down.
So these last, we'll call it 10 minutes, were all spurred by my question about, is Arizona
which I didn't answer.
prepared for the aging population that's coming.
Yeah.
And I heard this statistic the other day, and it's brand new. It was talked about in the news that the country of Japan saw a 3 million population drop from 106 million to 103 million, and they're predicting by 2030 it's going to be less than 100 million, and it hasn't been down that low in 60 years. And I remember, looking to Susie, my wife, I said, do you want to know why? And she said, why? I said, it isn't because people are leaving Japan to go to another country. They're discharging to heaven because they have a problem. They have a problem because they are aging at a greater rate than we are. They're probably about 20 years ahead of us. Maybe I might be a little bit hyperbolic there. Maybe it's 10 years. But we're right behind them. We're shrinking in our population. And we have to realize this. And I love how you brought up anti-aging, because that's such a negative. I'm going to be 64 this year, and I've lost friends and family members a lot, unfortunately, recently. And it's a privilege to age.
Yeah.
How lucky are we to be here right now to see what we're seeing? This is the stuff that we used to see in science fiction movies.
Right.
We saw this in Star Trek, we saw this in the Terminator. All these things are actually coming to life. Let's hope that it's not the Terminator and it's the AI taking over, But in any case, it's here. We need to embrace this. We need our legislators to understand this. We have a big governor race that's coming up this year. Whoever you are rooting for or wanting, find out where they stand on aging services. Feel where they are in terms of where their politics are, because you want to make sure they align with preparing us and our country and our state for what's about to hit us.
And I think the platitudes that you get sometimes from elected officials is that, again, we care about older adults. We're going to make sure vulnerable adults are well taken care of. They're not, from consumer fraud, from all of the things, which sounds great, but none of them have a systems plan. I haven't seen any of them actually talk about it from a serious space of like really the entire system is broken and it's falling apart. And I'll just share this one last piece on it. But we've been sharing with all of the departments and the governor's office currently about the issue of the severely mentally ill, or what we would say SMI, who have never lived this long, and now that they're living longer, they also are developing brain change, dementia much earlier. They've never lived this long, but they actually, because of all of their medications that they take, we know that like folks who take benzos for a large part of their life actually have early onset dementia. That's why we're seeing a lot of folks start developing signs of brain change in their 50s and 60s. But folks who have been living with severe mental illness their whole life, they've never lived this long, and now they're living this long, and now we're starting to see the impacts of all those medications. So now they have dementia. In our state, Arizona, which isn't unique, but I can really only speak to what we do in Arizona. We have this SMI population that we don't truly have real funding for. We've kind of got like a makeshift funding for them, but they don't qualify for Medicaid, and so somebody with a severe mental illness doesn't, just because I have a severe mental illness, you don't necessarily get on Medicaid in Arizona. And somebody who's living with dementia also does not just get on Medicaid if they run out of money. So those two diagnoses together creates a situation where they don't have a place to live, and those people are coming to be there. There are a lot more of them than anyone would like to admit and see. And this is a crisis, and it's upon us. We have HR1 that's upon us.
Oh, boy.
And we have cuts coming from our state budget,
which we won't know till probably June 30th.
No, it looks like hopefully we're going to sine die next week. Fingers crossed, 5 more days. But if that, but we are anticipating at least a 5% cut to all of the departments except 2. And, one of those being Access, which is trying to implement HR1 plus the rural health grants on top of that. And so it's a lot to undertake. And the reality is that those cuts actually, they're cuts to the system. So more people are aging, more people are economically less stable than they were before, and they're aging, and they're going to need supportive services. And we don't know where these folks are going to live. So, these are obviously bigger problems that need to be addressed. But to your question of any of the governor candidates is, what is their plan on aging?
Right.
And I think having them say we are going to protect them isn't really acceptable. And I think Arizonans need to ask deeper questions. How? Who's funding for it? Who's paying for it? What services? Because again, and I'll just say this as a plug for what we do is, you're not going, if you're going to, you need to fund programs and services for our members. And so our adult day programs need dramatic support. In fact, we tell our legislators there should be an adult day program on every corner, just like a Starbucks.
Pre-COVID, there were, I think, 36.
Yes.
And now there are like 6.
There are 6 left.
That's it.
And they are...
Social isolation is killing people.
The benefit of these programs are incredible. And, the fact that these aren't funded appropriately, that they're not talked about appropriately, that there isn't a focus on that being a solution, like a low lift solution, is fascinating to me. I think it's also, the other questions, you have institutionalized care, unfortunately. You have your skilled nursing facilities, which are this is obviously unpopular for some, but it's overregulated, which makes it a burden to run and very difficult for somebody to want to do that work because every single move that they make it has to be calculated and it's scrutinized. Somebody under their, it has created an environment that makes it very, very difficult for people to work in. Assisted living, which was supposed to be the antithesis to nursing homes, we now have folks that want to overregulate assisted living, which will increase cost, which will then force people onto Medicaid much faster, and which will now create 2 levels of nursing homes, which people already rejected.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different workforce situation. So these are the things that, you try to create new solutions for what the community wants. You need funding mechanisms for it, and you need real teeth behind it. You need a real system that's going to support it. And we just don't have something like that. And so I think that's one of those that's something that needs. And look, aging services is not sexy.
No,
it's not a sexy conversation. People would much rather talk about gun control, voting rights, abortion, all of the schools.
Teachers can all march on.
All of those things. I get it. Those are really sexy things that people can talk about. Aging services, to the point of it, should not be, and we hope that it isn't, a partisan issue. It is, so since it's not a wedge issue, it's almost not an issue.
Well, it's interesting. This question I started with, your response was, today's better than the days that are coming. And it's so true. I mean, the facts are the facts, and we have deficits presently in our policies and our processes that we have in place.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't even begun to really tap into the behavioral health issues. We just don't have enough inpatient facilities here. We don't have enough beds. We have a real problem, and these are real problems that need to be addressed. So, I mean, when you are out there voting this year, you need to really understand where your candidate stands on all of these things, because the future shouldn't be about anti-aging, and it shouldn't be not glorifying the fact that we are aging and we're doing things that generations before couldn't.
Yeah.
Like me getting a herniated disc fixed 50 years ago, it would have been a whole lot different than it is today.
Yeah.
How grateful we are to be here, to be aging.
Sure.
So I'm going to make the switch.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the Help Project.
Okay.
All right. So you've got decades in aging services.
I do. Yeah.
And you have really put your time and effort into this, and nobody advocating for one of the most vulnerable populations I know better than Jaime Roberts.
Oh, thank you.
I mean it. The Help Project, I want you to define it for us and for the viewers and listeners.
Sure.
But it feels, to me, very personal, and I want you to share. I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think you're on a mission.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it before the show, but I love where you're going.
Yeah.
And I want to help you.
Thank you.
Help the Help Project.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Help Project came out of just my own experiences, right? So I had my own family, my own friends, all experience frustration with their aging loved ones, and all call and say, Jaime, is this, oh my God, is this it? I'm smart. I've got this. I mean, I have plenty of money and resources. And why can't I, why didn't I know this about my parent? Why didn't I know that I couldn't do X, Y, and Z? And why is this so hard? And I realized that, what I know about the system, I have taken for granted all of these years about how frustrating it is and how long things take. And, and so when people would call me frustrated and upset, they were coming to me and it was like, it's a little bit like people call you when it's like boiling a frog. I don't,
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, and they're already in crisis, right? They need a quick, fast solution. And when you start talking to them, you realize, oh my God, they haven't planned at all. And these are people who, again, have resources.
They're smart, highly educated.
And you would think that, and they know that they have power, they have stuff for themselves, right? And for their kids and their family, but they haven't asked the same questions with their parents. I mean, different generations, different things. Again, people never lived this long. I mean, these are all new things. But they had no idea about how things are paid for, and they just frankly didn't worry about it. They were like, why is this why is this my problem? And so when people first started coming to me, they were coming to me because they were already drowning. They were already in it. And it was after kind of a couple of years of seeing that.
Was there a specific moment? Like, did you have that aha moment? Was it like, gosh darn it, I got to do something here?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were these what I think it was when I had a very close friend who had nothing but resources and was like, I don't know. I mean, her question to me was like, I work full time. I'm doing all of these things. Like, how do people do this? How do people do this? Right. And because I'm drowning.
There's not a playbook
out there. And I realized that if, and I knew this, obviously I know this person very well, but about 10 years ago, she should have started planning. I mean, I saw the signs 10 years ago, like this was happening 10 years ago, but like you couldn't talk about it 10 years ago, right? And they weren't interested in even bringing it up because it was just the things that you do. Because I'm the daughter, that I'm doing the thing, and the first home check-in that I'm doing, or the med setup, or the whatever the thing was, just that you're a daughter. I'm going to just do this once, and after surgery she'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like the slow crawl caregiving that most people do, right? Yeah. Until it became a crisis. And so it was really in that moment that I realized when she said, I don't know how I'm going to work full time, that I realized, yeah, well, I have to go to companies. And really, it was that moment where I started, and I said, what do you think about your company? If your company had a resource like me, it's not your EAP program because you already don't have it. You're not using it. What if they hired somebody like me and I was in there 10 years?
By the way, EAP stands for?
The Employee Benefits Program that a lot of organizations use.
Employee Assistance Program.
Yeah. And she was like, oh my gosh, because if I'm dealing with it, my employees are dealing with it. And so that was really the light bulb moment, was when it was like, when I asked this person who had opportunity to think about it. And that was really the beginning of how it shifted into the reality is that people aren't going to pay for help until they're in the crisis, until they're in pain. But companies are already feeling that pain and they don't realize it because they're not asking the questions about retention or disengagement or the personal stuff, because nobody wants to go to HR jail, right? So they don't want to go in and say, my mom fell and broke her hip again, and I got to get her to the ortho, but I have a board meeting at 2 and my kid's softball game at 5, and somehow I'm supposed to figure out how to get mom to the ortho for their whatever fit, right? How am I supposed to do that? Who can I call, right? I mean, So yeah, I think that so going into organizations ahead of time and saying, you already have this generation of people who are dealing with it. And until you bring it up to them and provide them with opportunities, like if you give them the solution during work hours for them to get the resource, you've retained an employee. You've given them something that they were never going to go do on their own. And if they were going to go do it, it wasn't until it was too late. They were already thinking about maybe reducing hours or quitting or resigning, whatever the case was, because it was too much. So why don't you meet them 10 years beforehand and provide solutions within the organization? And that message resonates with organizations that want, first of all, we talked about people aging out or retiring and less people entering in. Our generation that's working right now, I mean, we're probably the last generation that wouldn't cry at work or talk about our stuff at work because, you don't want to go to HR jail. I mean, I don't know about the next few generations.
They're pretty upfront.
They're pretty upfront.
They tell you I want work-life balance right from the start.
Right from the beginning. But our generations are still the ones that are the work.
We show up.
We're consistent. We want the benefits package. Like we want the things that, like the old traditional things. And we have the historical perspective of an organization. You lose that person in an organization, it's going to cost you so much more to replace them.
And that is the showing up part. And I don't have the data point here, but we talked about the math. I think it's costing corporate America somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 billion, if not more, a year from lost time from employees. And that scenario you just gave, that I've got to go take my mother to the ortho. I got to take my dad to go see his cardiologist. Those are lost hours. And when you sit down and you talk about a team, right? And whether you're an operational team, marketing team, sales team, administrative team, when you're one person down, that puts so much pressure on the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And that's really not fair.
Right.
So, look, I can tell you that home care has been advocating for a dozen years now for HSAs, the health savings accounts, to be able to use HSAs to pay for care for older adults, and not just for children. We still have not gotten that passed.
Yeah,
we should be able to use HSAs to pay for older adults.
Those are exactly the policy issues that we need our elected officials to say, yeah, that makes sense. Here's the thing I've said to several elected officials is, when the baby boomers were born, we did things like create school zones. Great idea. We needed school zones. We needed we needed these, we needed sidewalks. We needed to do all of these things to make communities safer for kids. Why aren't we doing the same thing now that they've aged? And, HSA plans and helping to pay for childcare.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Adult care.
They pay for childcare.
They pay for child.
But they don't pay for adult care.
Yeah.
That's my point. Why not? Why is that math so hard? Why is that solution? Why does that not make sense? And people will say that makes sense, but we somehow can't. Those are the things, it doesn't feel like it's because I feel like it's not a wedge issue enough for them to say, look at this big win. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but it is. Those are the exact examples that make no sense from a policy perspective.
Do you remember that guy, Andy Rooney from 60 Minutes?
Yes.
Do you ever wonder why? They don't think of these things. And then the other part is, do we ever wonder why are we doing more PSAs to have families more prepared? Because one of the things for sure is that I think universally you can say that when you are engaged, it's because families haven't been prepared.
Right.
And no one's telling them how to prepare for this.
Right.
I mean, the Help Project is the Band-Aid. But how do we really fix this and go back and have people prepared for this?
Well, so I would say I don't want the Help Project to be the Band-Aid. The Help Project is an idea that goes in and helps beforehand to give people structure and ideas and to give organizations tools to start thinking, to be proactive.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
I was thinking more of your friends that you were talking about.
Yes, 1,000%.
But the work that you're doing with employers,
the employer benefit
is to be proactive.
Is to be proactive, yes. Because look, when somebody's in crisis, I don't know how many times I call you and say, Bob, can you help this family? Right? They need your help. That's the. Wouldn't it be better for the families to know that here, when I need it, I'm going to call. I'm not I already know Bob, right? And I already know Cypress Home Care, or I know because I've thought about it enough, or I'm anticipating things. What I tell folks what I do is when I'm in there talking to organizations, and I generally do kind of group presentations at first, and then we work on a plan together. But when I'm in there saying to them, look, you guys have been, that first time that you're replacing mom's pills, that was the moment you needed to start thinking about it, because you're going to have to do it again. And we have a tendency of putting our head in the sand when that first happens.
Right.
And they do it for years. And they keep hoping and praying, right? Oh, something, it's just going to get better. And
then what happens if that person gets sick or they travel, and someone's not filling those pill boxes?
Right. And yes, yes, that. And then, but on the flip side, the person that's providing the care, their own health, because they're kind of pretending that everything's fine and I'm not dealing with it. The data, which we've talked about before, about the caregiver's health,
Yeah.
they die 80% sooner.
Yep.
So
if they're not getting outside help,
if they're not,
100%.
but it starts 10 years before they even think it started.
Right.
And so the goal of the Help Project is to get in, and really it's a preventative medicine tool, I think, is when I think about it.
That.
I mean, this is something that should be thought about at corporations that are thinking about this are the ones that understand. Primarily, it starts with them having their own issue first, right? And that they get it. And then they realize very quickly that everyone else in their organization in their same cohort are probably dealing with it too. But they recognize that, there isn't a phone number to call that's going to solve that. Here's the other thing about dealing with aging loved ones that's also really important is, if you don't have a complicated relationship with your parents, caring for them as they age is hard enough. If you have a complicated relationship with your parent or maybe siblings, it changes a lot of things that might seem like easy button things to solve. And it creates a whole new level of anxiety and inability to take action, which clogs the pipeline. So there is, when you talk about the full mind, body, spirit experience, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of that stuff, which again, in the workspace is not kosher. Like, you're not supposed to be talking about that.
100%.
But you don't know. I mean, I did a post about this over Mother's Day. People who don't have great relationships with their mom, like, you don't know that email from the florist or whatever, it can trigger them. Or maybe they just lost their mom and they're in a meeting and all of a sudden they're a mush and you don't know what happened to that person. So if we're not thinking a little bit more about the whole person in our workspace, which I think a lot of companies have started to do, but folks who seem like they have it all together, that are high functioning, really high performers, when they start dealing with this elder care issue, it's amazing how many of them are struggling and will leave the workforce because of it.
The emotions. I mean, there are a couple of emotions I think of because I confront this every day with the clients I serve.
Yeah.
Resentment, guilt are some of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the workplace and you feel like, I had a friend of mine, and I know you know him, and he did a video testimonial and literally cried in that video testimonial because he couldn't do the work.
Yeah.
He said, I really want to do the work, but I can't do the work because I have to provide and do the work for my family.
Right.
But then, we've talked about it before, the dollars and cents and who's going to pay for that. And I think it starts, and this is one of the things I wanted to say about the Help Project, is the one thing that, I love about what you've created here is that you don't just identify the problems. You're helping to create the solutions.
Yeah.
Because we could sit here and talk about the problems.
Oh, they're not easy. They're easy to find. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's really, I look at you, and I may have shared this with you before, I look at you as more of a Sherpa, a navigator, somebody to be able to, because not everybody plans, and you've done it for a lot of people, whether they are colleagues, friends, family members, or people that have found you. You are that Sherpa. You're the one to say, you know what, I got this, because they have gotten this oh crap moment, news that, mom just fell, dad got this diagnosis. As intellectually, intelligent they are, that may not be the right way to say it, but someone that has not only resources, but is, very sophisticated, they still can't think straight. And they don't know what they don't know. But us that work in aging services, no. I mean, look, there's lots of places we can go. And unfortunately, in aging services and in the community at large, there are bad actors. And being that Sherpa to navigate to those solutions that best meet that person's needs is so important.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I don't refer out. I mean, I'm not a referral agent. I'm not a placement agent. I don't do any of that type of work. It's
you
more
don't do it for money. That's for sure.
No, but I don't do, I don't do that. I mean, it's a strategic mindset. And I work with companies to think more strategically about this massive issue that's upon them, and then providing them, helping them create the resources for their employees. So when they do have it, that they know where to go. So from that perspective, yes. But I think the other important thing is that when people are in crisis, they often think they have to place mom or dad in a place, right? Or in the home.
Right.
And I think there are so many things that could be happening well before that, of keeping folks in their home. Planning ahead allows you to really honor those parts of their wishes. Putting them in the home isn't always the solution. And that is not one that I recommend unless it's really truly the right placement. I would much prefer people live in the environment that they're most comfortable in, and that if you plan ahead, you can figure out ways. Even through long-term care financing, there's tremendous work being done on that piece of it, to keep people in their homes longer. But if you wait till the crisis, so many of those opportunities are out the window.
Mm-hmm. No, and I like how you positioned that. I mean, the fact of the matter is that if you poll people, majority of them want to stay where they're at. It's interesting. A lot of people refer to the work that we do at Cypress Home Care Solutions and other home care companies as non-medical, non-clinical, non-skilled. It tells the world what we're not, but it doesn't tell the world what we are. And I like to refer to our industry as more of an in-home support system. So we're an in-home supportive care agency. That's what we do. We support people in the home.
Sure.
This industry that has born out of this aging world that we are in today. I mean, look, when my mother had her heart attack back in 1985, there was no such thing as assisted living.
Right.
But now we have this industry that they call placement. And I don't know about you, and I told you about the objection I have to non-medical, non-clinical, because if we don't keep people fed, cared for, in compliance with their discharge orders, bathe, all those things, they're going to end up dying.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really want to place people?
No.
And it's such a negative term. It should be like a senior advisor or whatever, but a placement?
I don't
place me anywhere, please.
I don't love it. I don't love that industry. I think people, I mean, again, need to be cautious about those sorts of resources.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, again, when you're in crisis and you're in pain and you're Googling at 2 a.m., that's what shows up.
Yep.
And that's not, I mean,
and it's usually the national brands that are squatting on someone that.
I mean, it's not for everyone. And, it is for some people, and it should be, and it's wonderful for people, but it's not for everyone. And if we aren't being thoughtful about that and asking the right questions and understanding the holistic picture around all of the pieces of that puzzle, we're not. First of all, we're not doing any service to the industries in which you're sending people to. They're not the right match for them.
Right.
They were never appropriate for that level or that space to begin with. But also the person might not even be very happy there. And so what are we doing? How are we improving their lives? Whose life did we improve?
100%.
Was it the adult child in Cincinnati that just didn't want to deal with the staffing agency at home? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people make these choices. But even if you thought that the choice was, let me put mom or dad in this X, Y, and Z place, and like they somehow think that, like, it's not over. The responsibility is still there.
100%.
And you can't outsource care. You can't outsource empathy. And if you're going to think that you're going to be able to manage that at a place that you put mom or dad, you're going to be so disappointed. Because those expectations, like, it is hard work. And to the person who said, I feel better, but I can't do it. But even the person who says, I can't do it because I'm not good at it. And then if they layer the expectation that they're not good, like then they somehow expect the person caring for them to be some kind of superhero. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's this really bizarre situation that people put professional caregivers in, of a job that they themselves could never do. And that their expectations of that professional caregiver to be some type of superhuman, person that never makes a mistake is not reasonable. And so we have to do a better job of recognizing how that role, what that role does and what it doesn't do, and really making the expectations a little bit more clear for everyone.
And the challenge is, I mean, it goes back to what you talked about, having a process, and this industry is still relatively new. And like any other industry, there are some really good actors in the business and there are some bad
Yeah.
actors. And we talked about the fact that 1/3 of our population is solo aging. So you don't have an adult child. And some of these folks that are in this business say they can move people multiple times.
We haven't even touched on fiduciaries. That's a whole other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to stay with the health
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
So my next question is exactly what happens if you could take me and our viewers and listeners, what happens when a family works with the health project? What does that look like?
Well, so I don't work with families. I know.
Is it just businesses?
I'm just doing businesses.
All right, because I know initially it was families, but it's totally business.
It's totally business.
So tell me what that looks like in an engagement with a business and a company that is
so initially it started as a B2C sort of opportunity, but I realized that's when I realized very quickly that this needs to be a solution for corporations. So I work directly with decision makers and leaders at corporations that recognize that are curious about their culture and retention and wanting to find solutions for their employees. Things that they, that they can't find in their EAP plan, and recognize that they need something a little bit different to address these issues. And so that's where people engage me. So I generally start with uh, an interactive program with folks. I go over kind of the 5 things that people need to know, that every person that has an aging loved one or person in their house or in their life, kind of the basics. From there, you generally get a lot of information back from that from those employees. And then from that, I work with either HR or the leadership of the organization to help them develop a plan to address what's specific to their organization.
All right, so give me an idea of like sizes of companies. I mean, one of the things that you and I both lived here a long time, and there was a time when we didn't have like Taiwan Semiconductor coming. We had really small businesses,
direct flights to
So, but there are lots of big companies here. I would imagine they vary in size. I mean, if you're an employer of 50 people or 5,000 people.
They do. Well, so it depends. And again, I normally start with doing more of a town hall format. I mean, that's how I've gone in, and I do. It's not a presentation because I don't want it, but it is. I mean, in the sense that I provide kind of these buckets. We talk about it's an engaging thing, and I am able to really understand from. I can do. I haven't worked with companies with more than 1,000 employees. That's just. I mean, that's just.
There are not that many here.
There's not that many, and so and it's worked better in I would anywhere up to 1,000 employees, in the sense that they tend to do it by departments or in groups, or and then it's like a train the trainer with the HR folks, like, so really depending on where they which group they want to work with. They all have everyone's different, so I don't about how their organization wants to operate it, and so that's sometimes it's the one training, and then from there we come up with the recommendations and they take it from there. Some want more of an engagement. They want more hand-holding. So you work with them on what that might look like. So some might want more presentations done to all of these different groups, which is, we can do too. So it's really what the organization is looking for.
Are you finding organizations leaning in, seeing this, recognizing it? I mean, you're obviously giving them a lot of data and a lot of information. And really on the ground, feedback, because you're living it and seeing it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's not for all organizations. I mean, it has to be an organization that recognizes it as something that they want to address. I mean, I would say organizations that have, things like paternity leave, that have been creative in wanting to make sure that, they're really thinking about their entire population. Those organizations are much more interested in learning about how else they can support their employees. So it's not a solution for everyone, and I'm not for everyone either. So it's really tailored to organizations that see this as look, it's always the person who's dealing with it themselves.
Right, 100%. But it goes back to what you and I were talking at the beginning of this podcast. It all comes back to workforce.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, as an employer, treating your workforce and
Right.
respecting your workforce and understanding that they have needs that they need to care for beyond their immediate family, but it's parental needs or sibling needs
Yep.
that need addressing.
Yep.
No, I love that you're tackling this. I want to move on to a fun segment that I like to do. I
Okay.
like to do rapid fires,
Okay.
just so that our audience, both visually and audio wise, can learn a little bit more about Jamie Roberts.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So first and foremost, coffee or tea?
Coffee, 1,000%.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Well, the best piece of advice, I say this to my kids, because it's been helpful for them, but keep your head where your feet are.
One more time.
Keep your head where your feet are.
Oh, wow. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Keep grounded.
That's it.
I got
Yeah.
it. I figured that
Yeah.
one out.
Yeah.
Most common misconception about aging?
Um, the most oh gosh, there's that you're not able to do things, I think, at a certain age. You just stop being able to enjoy life.
One thing that I discovered, not personally, but intimacy is very important.
Yes.
People think that doesn't exist
Oh
for
gosh,
older
yes.
people.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it does. It
Yeah.
very much so.
Do you want to talk about sex, Bob?
You know what? This isn't our show about sex, but I will tell you, I think the STD capital is the
Yeah.
Villages down in Florida.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the older
And
adults
Sun
are
City
very,
is a close second.
are very sexually active. Um, what's your favorite way to recharge?
So I do a lot of yoga, and really I just like being with my daughters. It's
Who are amazing.
who are amazing.
They
so
are.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I should also probably say, and Steven.
of course,
That's it. Yeah.
Stephen Kahn. Big
Stephen
shout
Kahn.
out to him.
Yeah.
A book that you have most gifted to others.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm going to answer slightly different because it's just a book that I read that I've told like so many people about, which I was really surprised about how it impacted me. It's called In Love by Amy Bloom, and it was a book about medical aid in dying, which I thought I understood my position on.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, I read it in a weekend, and the book just like it was her story. I couldn't put it down. I mean, I finished it in a weekend. It was so it's not that I gift. I mean, that's a weird thing to gift.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
Well,
hey, medical aid in dying. Who's interested in that? But when it has come up, which it has, I have told because for me, it had me doing my own internal processing. I had a tremendous emotion, which I did not expect from it.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
What keeps you motivated?
My kids, my daughters, 1,000%.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
One thing every family should discuss this weekend.
Their care plans of who, like your power of attorney, get all of that together. What are your wishes? And if the person that you think is going to do it, make sure that they can do it, want to do it, and will fulfill your specific wishes.
And it would be an amazing gift you will give to your children and grandchildren.
Yes. Yeah. Have the difficult conversation for sure.
So as we get ready to wrap up, I always conclude the show with, is there a question I haven't asked? Is there a lasting thought you want to leave our listeners and viewers about the Help Project, about the work you're doing in aging services, about Arizona LeadingAge? Jamie, this is your time.
Oh gosh, this is it. I mean, I think, look, there's a lot of things that we could be worried about, and that list goes on and on. But I do think there are incredible opportunities out there as well. And so always keeping our head where our feet are, and remembering that, yes, these are challenging times specifically around aging and how we're taking care of our elders. but also there's so much opportunity at the same time.
Well,
And so I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the negative because that's what gets everyone all wired up. But I think there is a lot of super exciting opportunities. And I just, I just hope that we keep our eyes on that opportunity and not just stuck in how are we going to do this next big thing.
For me and looking at you, our viewers and listeners that are listening in, a lot of people are graduating college. A lot of people are in college. We need people in healthcare. We need people in aging services because the demands on us, like you said, today's like our best day because it's only going to go down from here. The demands are going to really be on us in the years to come.
Yeah.
And we need more people in here. We need more people being relational and human in those encounters.
Yeah.
And there's no better place to be in aging services and healthcare. Jaime Roberts, wow, number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. And
I feel like I need the Saturday Night Live 5 coat jacket.
Well,
did you see that one?
No, I haven't, but I think I might give you a key to the building here so
great.
you can come on in.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, if I ever do need someone to guest host, gosh, you are incredible with the mic. Like I said, you were incredible at the Arizona LeadingAge conference.
Oh, thank you.
You did a great job, and
Thank you.
Of course, you did a great job here today.
Thank
you so much.
Oh,
for being
thank
on
you,
our
Bob.
show.
Always.
Make it a great day. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back next Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm Bob Roth, reminding you that living well isn't just about years, it's about the quality of life and connections. Follow and share the show, and join us next time for more on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life.